Hey everybody, again we're discussing the candidates match in 1965 between Lejos Portisch and Mikhail Tal. This is Game 7. After two successive draws in Game 5 and 6, Tal was leading the match 2 games to 1. And so we're here at Game 7 with the white pieces. There's Portisch and Tal had the black pieces. And if you've been following the series, you'll see again the contrast in styles and what type of games um, were to be played over the board was very interesting. Opening choices and such. So Tal was playing again his bombastic style, sacrifices, tactical blows, uh, and Portisch was trying to play a more conservative game, with a solid structure, Carol Khan and French type structures. Trade off some minor pieces early, keep a solid pawn structure, and try to lead and get a good ending, superior ending, hoping that Tal would kind of um, over attack or over press in the position. This got Portisch a win. Matter of fact, but the 2 games that Tal won were just explosive, sacrificial games where he won one in less than 30 moves, and the other game in like 32 moves. So um, you see these great forces, great legends at the board, trying to impose their will on each other. So here, Portisch has the white pieces, Tal has the black pieces. Game 7. Nimzo Indian. At C5. Now, Tal had played B6, I believe, in Game 5. Yeah, excuse me. Tal in this Game 5, 2 games earlier, um, Portisch had played. Portisch was the one to deviate. Portisch had played Bishop D3 here in this position, but in this game, he played knight f3 and decided to put his light square bishop on a more modest square. Tal opted for the same continuation. He played c5 against bishop d3, and he's playing c5 against knight f3. And now here, after c5, Portisch played bishop e2, and the game transposes into Carol Khan, actually a Panov-Botvinnik attack. And so d5 was played, so it's kind of like the same set up positionally against against Portisch. So Tal with the black pieces kind of chose the same thing whereas Portisch has like deviated a bit. That game ended in the draw, by the way. I'll just show you the position there after 6 moves. You can kind of see what I'm saying. So on move 5, bishop d3. This is game 5 again, and then knight f3 wind up being played. But notice how Tal plays pretty much the same setup here. Okay, and now we'll go back to game 7, and again, instead of bishop d3, there is knight f3. But Tal's play is pretty much the same: c5, d5, knight c6, right? So here Tal exchanges: c takes d4, e takes d4, knight c6, and now bishop g5. Bishop goes back to e7, rook c1, and black's real last problem to deal with is what to do with the light square bishop, which is often the problem. Bishop in these queen's gambit decline positions. b6. So now we're gonna have like this Tartakower situation where once the light square bishop commits to the diagonal, white will now exchange on f6 and then trade on d5 so that there's a pawn blocking the action of the bishop. Bishop takes, c takes, e takes, and now queen a4, and now the bishop goes to b7. Okay, so the bishop is developed, but kind of like half developed because the bishop, future is not real bright there on b7. Needless to say, white does not have any, real big advantage there. Both sides have isolated pawns, and black's development is pretty straightforward. His rook on f8 is gonna go to e8. Obvious open file situation, and basically all black has to do is just figure out how to alleviate himself from white's, slight pressure on the queen side. For instance, there's going to be pressure on the a7 pawn, stuff like that. Perhaps some pressure against the knight. For instance, move like bishop b5 can put more pressure against the knight. Um, Black can try to play moves like knight a5 and come into the c4 square, but it has to worry about b3. But then once b3 is played, the c3 square becomes weak. So in other words, black has, some minor issues to deal with, but white does not have any real pressure that or he can't claim any advantage out of this position right here. Rook fd1, a6. So you see black already dealing with the problem of the a pawn, queen b3. There it is, rook e8. And again, we see this minor problems that black is trying, white is trying to set up. I mean, these are real minor problems. For instance, it's attacking the d pawn, attacking the b pawn, but black always has enough to deal with these problems. For instance, knight to d5 is not going to work on account of the e2 bishop. So the bishop goes back to f1, and now knight e5, attacking the queen. Queen c2, and now rook c8. So Tal always has enough activity. Rook takes e1, rook takes e1. Now the knight comes into c4. And again, if he plays b3 to kick the knight out, then the c3 square will be weak. Bishop d3, g6, queen e2, getting out of the opposition of that rook on c8. b5, this all falls in line with, what black was trying to do. Knight e5, bishop takes, d takes, d4, knight d1, and queen g5. So here's Tao now imposing his will on position. He wants to play dynamically, right? So here now we got a mate threat. You see, f4, queen takes f4, e6, bishop d5, and we see here Portisch trying to play kind of like Tao's style, and I don't think that's a good idea here. Rook f1, queen g5, f takes, bishop takes. Now b3, finally to kick the knight out. Knight has a good happy place to go to though. Knight e5, a4, bishop d5, just keeping the pressure on the white position. Bishop e4, and now bishop takes f3, a takes b5. Nice in between move, bishop c4, queen c2, and now Tao is just up 2 pawns. Bishop d5 check, king just moves, bishop takes c4, b takes c4. Now the pawns are connected, and Portisch could have resigned here. Who knows if there was like a time pressure scramble or something like that. But queen e4, rook d8, h4, queen g3, queen b7, rook d7, queen c8, rook f7, takes, queen c7, and then white just resigned. There's no, nothing that white can do here. Beautiful game played by Tao. And kind of like a bad game played by Portisch. He had no pressure coming out of the opening at all. This is like the most he had in a position was this nominal pressure on d5 and a little pressure on b6, and Tao just dealt with that real easy. Drove the white pieces back, and then next thing you know, he used this isolated pawn to drive back the white knight, and then just start attacking on the queen side. On the king side, sorry. Nice game.